Here we have an editor in his natural habitat. He has just about finished his project, looking proud and pleased. There is one final step.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris West Beast. Today we're going to talk about the hero's journey. If you're here and you wanted to know about basically world building, or either it's going to be about writing about prehistoric animals or animals that are alive today, or made up animals or animals that are hypothetical in alien worlds, I'll talk about that in a different video. If you wanted to talk about the audience and who it is to target to, again, I'll talk about that in a different video as well. I'll get to all those, but just not now. Now we're talking about the hero's journey. The hero's journey can go through a couple of branches. There's the stereotypical hero's journey, which is just the hero ventures out in the world, saves a couple of people, loses a couple of battles, fights the big bad, and the day is saved. Or there's the other hero's journey, which is all about self-growth when they're learning internally and mentally. And then there's the hero's journey that's both mentally, physically. Another component to that would be also the last is as a character, he or she will grow. And those are the three main lines, and you can mix those three. I won't go in too deep in that. That part you're gonna have to figure out yourself when you make your own hero. First, let's talk about the main one, the hero's journey. The main one, the main hero's journey has been told for a very long time, is well known, and here's the basic rule for all three of them that you might want to follow. Make your hero likable, make your hero weak or at least clumsy, or make your hero really smart, weak, or make your hero really strong and make them really goofy, or make your hero self-doubt themselves every time and slowly grows out of it. Or maybe they're overconfident and they have to learn how to be just confident enough but not too confident. Don't make your hero OP, because if you make your hero OP, then it's gonna be really hard to deal with the storytelling and shit. What you're gonna get another Star Wars Last Jedi crap, and you don't want that. But when it comes to the hero's journey, the main hero's journey, the original one, that one is well known. We're not gonna talk about like the powers and abilities, but for simplicity, just keep regulations on that, on the powers, like basic, simple things powers don't do, can't do. For this, we're going to talk about the hero. First, the hero needs to first venture out of their homeland. What? And needs to find purpose, finish their goal, maybe to save someone or save people, or maybe defeat a big bad like a villain. The villain could be a cookie cutter villain like I want to rule the world or rule the land, or it could be a villain that has depth and has a plan and actually has a long strategy to get to it. The villain and hero go hand in hand. I might make a video about the villain later on some point, just not now. When it comes to the hero's journey, you need to explore the hero's strengths and weaknesses. You need to give them challenges. You cannot give them easy breeze, but you can't make the challenge so hard that the hero can't win. It doesn't make sense. So when the hero has to go and challenge themselves into a conflict that they may or may not be able to win. When it comes to your hero, in their first ever conflict, make the villain slightly more powerful at first. Their villain or foe or grunt, slightly more powerful than the hero. Make the hero somehow either outsmart the villain or get a power up or out trick the villain. Let's just say someone else may save the hero and then that become a friend, or may not become a friend, may become a rival person, maybe the tutor, and that way you can encourage a little bit about the hero trying to get a little bit more stronger, a little bit more courage to face the threat, and then the hero could get a little better and stronger. So when the hero goes and faces the threat, there are some moments the hero will win, and then there will be moments where the hero will lose. Those moments you have to work really hard to make the hero and learn how to win, either to outsmart or outthink the threat or foe and outbeat the danger. And eventually you should make a decision on this. There's a couple ways you can end the hero, which is A, you could make the hero win stereotypically, they save, or B, the hero becomes a villain and kills everybody, or C, you could get the hero to save the world or the land, dies in the process. When it comes to the hero saving the world stereotypically, you want the battle to look engaging and interesting, and you want it to, if you were going to outsmart the villain, let's just say not outmuscle him, you want it to look very believable and understandable for a majority of people, so that way they like it and they understand that makes sense. When it comes to for the hero that turns into a villain, show examples slow and steady and sometimes a moment of unexpected leap of violence. What does that mean? Maybe the hero this one time might wipe out a couple dozen people when usually they wouldn't, and make them have conflict of character. And then when they do defeat the big bad, make them think, well, the big bad was right, or maybe the big bad was wrong. Or maybe say the big bad was wrong, but this is how I would do it. And make them enforce their will upon the people and make them be the great evil. And then get another hero to defeat that, which was the hero before, and make it an interesting conflict of interest. When it comes to the hero that dies from saving the world, make the battle very believable. You could say the hero had died from the villain, and they were both equally matched, or you could say the hero slowly died afterwards, at a few minutes or hours after the villain, or maybe a day or two. Or you can say the hero died by taking the villain with him, or some sort of suicide attempt. Could be an attack, an explosion, maybe some sort of poison, or maybe the hero's holding the villain long enough until something dropped on them and crushed them both. Anything could happen, but you gotta make it in such a way that the audience would like it and believe in it. That's one hero's path. Now we go and talk about the other hero's journey, the one that grows mentally. When the hero grows in a character, you gotta give them a little bit of conflict. A couple is maybe the hero is retiring because they're too old and they can't handle it, or maybe the hero is getting back into the job because maybe the threat has returned when previously thought it was wiped out. Or the hero is trying to take care of something and is trying to do their best to make this one person or animal trust them the best, because now they're doing something else. Let's first go with the hero that is returning because somehow the threat returned. When the hero is retired and the threat has returned, make the hero do an ordinary job like farming or cooking, or maybe like they're having a job now as a warehouse worker. They're checking out the products and see which shipment goes where to where properly. Bring some sort of like interesting lord or some sort of high figure character that is respectful for the community or land, and make them tell the hero what is happening, and make them say, well, the threat has returned and nobody knows how, and make them also say that the hero knows how to defeat the threat, and let the lord say, well, this threat has like extra limbs or maybe scales, or maybe this threat has 5 heads instead of 3, and make the hero surprised and curious how this even happened. Maybe he's lying, maybe he's not. Make him bewildered and make him surprised how this happened in the first place. Once the hero gets to the threat, just say that once the hero and threat have faced each other, the threat is more relaxed and calm in a way that makes the hero believe that the threat is not really threatening, it's just an average entity that may or may not have conflict of interest. And tell that both groups have tried to work out before but never had because time and life never allowed it to happen, and the threat is the last of its kind, the hero is the last of its kind in this specialty. Give it a threat prize for the hero that the hero is shocked, like some sort of reward, or maybe it's like some sort of like person or animal it's like showing, or maybe some sort of like entity, maybe a map or treasure. Then tell it they both fought each other when something else outside came and intrude and may have impeded in their negotiations. The hero killed the threat, and the threat told the hero about the truth and what lies beyond, or what it knows, making the hero become a person of keeps secrets until the world knows this gift that the hero has received from its old rival, and make it interesting in a way that the world may be ready for it. And now for the hero that is retiring and has a hard time dealing with it. Give the retired hero something that works with, such as a young person. That may work well. Let the hero see something in this young person. Maybe a fallen comrade, maybe it sees it themselves into this young person, maybe wants to trade them, and have conflict of interest. The experienced person having issues with a new guy who doesn't know anything about what the job's about, and having the new guy have no idea how this all works and having a hard time figuring it out. So when they're trying to work together, it's convoluted for them at times, and at moments it struggles, and at some moments they figure out how to work together and they actually succeed and actually have good moments where they actually understand one another. Make the hero meet a halfway point with the young person. That understanding, hero has to learn to adjust and adapt. Make the young person do the same thing, so that way it makes more sense. I have a couple of conflicts of interest. One conflict of interest for the young person and the old person is the young person who the hero is training meets someone they like in the opposite side of the field the hero has struggled with. Without the side that the hero's fighting, like the young person's fighting, and to make that young person have a hard time with the other person of love interest and struggling and having a hard time reconciling their feelings. No matter how much they try, nothing works, and they always have a hard time with one another, and they can never get things resolved. And let the hero tell them, yeah, I know this too. Let them have a conversation about this and make them explore more about it. Another conflict of interest you could do is the young hero tries saving a bunch of people, couldn't, and they died, and now the young hero's having nightmares, problems, just angsty all the time, doing moves that usually this young hero would have easy to deal with and knows it a million times but can't. But then the old hero figures out what happened, try making the old hero try talking to the young hero in such a way that, yes, I know this and we can work together how we can move on and mourn, or maybe you can't mourn properly, move on, but you can at least deal with it in a reasonable way, and that makes it easy on you and everyone else. That makes sense. Another way is you can also do is you can make the hero have a hard time struggling with an animal or a person, and that could have been abused. Both works side by side. For the animal, they have mistrust, they can't be trusting people because they have been abused. Same with a person, side by side, makes sense. The animal who lashes out or the person yells or screams, the hero has to be strong enough to be gentle and smart enough to be kind and wise enough to be patient. So that way it makes more sense in a way that doesn't have conflict of interest with the main character. I mean, not main character, I mean abused animal or either person. And slowly allow this person or the animal to warm up to the hero and eventually accept them. And then make another interesting way that is the person or the animal could have unique quirks or characteristics that don't make sense to the hero, but the hero's kind of like a little amused by it, or sometimes just plain baffled how this could have happened. It doesn't make sense and a little surprised, or maybe just confused and doesn't want to know more and just wants to leave at that moment because can't handle it. Those would bring interesting moments and would make the hero question more, and more has to learn to expect the unexpected. And for the abused victim or animal has to learn how to be more happy, more free, and be more calm, and for the animal to slowly be rehabilitated in such a way back to its environment or back to its job. Or for the person, you could go a couple of other steps: rehabilitate back to society, then rehabilitate back to their life, then try and relearn how to be calm with those that it perceives to be its abusers but really ain't. It just has a warped view of it, and then slowly works on it, and the hero works with them, and eventually that person succeeds and that person is free from all that traumatic experience. And the hero outside looks happy, but inside is a little conflicted that they don't feel like they short, but in actuality a long process. But to them they like this person or this animal, but it's too hard and it just doesn't feel right to let them go now. They kind of feels like family, feels like they lost a friend now. They want to see them grow too, but it's the right thing to do, let them go and experience the world and be helpful and productive, or to be as an animal and to be free and be amongst its kind.
As a human rights activist, we have asked you, Patrick, for what reason have you admitted to being a virgin?
Now we come to one of the last ones, which is the hero journey, that the hero grows mentally, physically, and as a character, or as an individual. To us is a character in the story. So there are a couple of ways that can happen. The hero could be forced as a leader of an organization or nation, or a leader could be more or less forced as a babysitter, maybe some sort of adopted caretaker. Or another way that could also go is the main character becomes unexpectedly a parent, or not a parent in the traditional sense. Someone had imprinted on them, became their parent unknowingly, knowingly. When it's imprint usually means with kids and baby animals, the first thing they see is technically a parent, or like a mother, for example. Mothers are more warmer than fathers. Fathers are more cold and more forgetful. Sorry if you're hearing this on Father's Day. You got a day for yourself. So now back to the hero. For the hero, let's first go with the leadership role. When it comes to the leadership role of the hero has to be forced in. There has to be some sort of conflict, some sort of side they're facing that is against them, and maybe the hero is a really good individual, is good at everything except communications and strategy, and is learning to do that. Or maybe they are good at communications and strategy, they are not good at right now at the moment with this ragtag group of members they got so far, because maybe they're losing a battle. They are not doing so good because maybe the decisions they had done were always hold back because fear of collateral damage, or maybe more environmental damages, or it could have been miscalculated decisions. Maybe they're not losing, maybe they're in a stalemate, maybe they're in a overconfident-ish to start, but over time maybe they will get overconfident and maybe they will lose. Well, no, that's all the same technical character you could do in different scenarios, but is more or less this is going to be how the leadership hero is going to be. Is someone who's thrust upon a line of duty and is now supposed to be good at doing their job, but maybe they're terrible at communications and probably has a hard time working with the team they have, or either men because they're new at it, or maybe the men are new and they don't have time to deal with it right now because they're facing another side. And sometimes they'll have conflict with their own team members because maybe sometimes the team member might be disobeying orders, maybe they are spies, or maybe they are, well, just doing their own thing, or maybe they did do the job halfway through until they noticed the other side was planning a trap, and maybe in that case they might want to warn their side about this, and maybe the leader hears about this, but the leader thinks no, but maybe when they get through the trap, then they realize that maybe they have to learn to get out of the scenario. Once they get out of the scenario, you gotta make the hero learn that they have to trust more on their team, and when they say something that's possibly true, so that way they could readjust their calculations and or plans, so that way they don't have another tragic ambush scenario. I mean, not. Maybe they have a conflict with some of the team members because maybe they're suspected as maybe treacherous villains. Maybe they're setting up them as treacherous villains, but maybe they're actually spies and they're feeding back to your hero about their other side's plans and plots and how maybe they're getting all their information and logistics done. So that way the spy, allegedly traitor, could do more sabotage. Then you have to learn to tell the hero how they may be having a hard time keeping a secret, or maybe they're not having a hard time keeping a secret, but maybe they're having a hard time keeping under control their men and forces from finding the traitor and trying to not rip him in pieces and put his body parts in pikes, trying to portray how it might work and how this might be difficult. Maybe they're not. Maybe they are surprised on some sort of unexpected third element. Another side, maybe an organization, maybe an entity, or some sort of unusual beasts that is conflicting both sides, and then they kind of are researching, but they're still at war with each other and they're still having problems, and that leader is trying to figure out what it is. And maybe they've been abducted by them before, or maybe they haven't. Maybe they haven't been encountered with them, and maybe they are kind of confused what is this all about, and maybe they give orders to their men to not interact with these things, or when they do see them, get away from the scenario and return back to base or some sort of safer location. And maybe the men sometimes do, or maybe they get caught by accident, or maybe they disobey because maybe they want to get this thing once and for all, or maybe it was a trick from the enemy side. The heroic leader learned how to plan and adjust and control their men from that and try saving them from that scenario. Sometimes you want to make the hero, who's also the leader, sometimes have temporary truces from the opposition, so that way it kind of switches up the pace a little bit. They can have a common foe or a common problem they're trying to solve, or maybe they're running out of numbers now, and for now they'll just have to work together, or it could have been resources. They're trying to work together to figure out how to solve it, and maybe try to work together, and maybe they might slowly have it together. Maybe that's not it. Maybe they're having more conflict of interest to it when they learn something from the other side's doing that could radically change the battle or war, and that be where the leader miscalculates and may lose a war, or may take a gamble and may have won the battle and learns not to take so many gambles. But they did save the day, and they may have ultimately won the war and allowed them to win. Now for someone who's trying to take care of someone or an animal, when they're trying to take care of somebody like a babysitter or a guard, and they're trying to protect this object or person, you have to do kind of the same thing as the other scenario hero's journey, which is they have to be strong enough to be gentle. I mean, they have to be gentle enough to be strong, and they have to be smart enough to be wise. They have to be cautious enough to be vigilant, so that way they don't mess with this and it could cause problems later on the road. Or maybe if it's not like something you think it's going to be very dangerous, maybe it's more fragile like a child or a woman. You know the rules, and so do I. Or some sort of like baby animal. You can make them come out of their comfort zone or their exterior shell they put up for themselves. And maybe they want to comfort the person or the animal. And maybe they want to, like, you know, do a little bit of games. Maybe a little conversation for the little child. Try, you know, to convince them to show a picture to the parent, or maybe some sort of like new dance move. It could be even as simple as a hug, but maybe they're too afraid because maybe the parent looks angry and maybe wants no interruptions because last time they did something something like that. The parent may have been angry, as the hero has to persuade them a little bit, go and like do it again, but they'll be there to help them and adjust the scenario and tell them what really is going on. Then you could give it in the hero's head what's really happening. Why is he or she doing that? And why are they acting like this? And then they could like show the resolve on that. Worked out. It was great. The hero has a little bit of like, has to take them to shopping, or maybe they have to go to school, or maybe they're at some sort of park, or just walking across the road, and maybe they're in danger right now and have to deal with it now, but maybe they don't want to show the person the threat and the danger, and maybe they don't want to get in trouble for that, or maybe they have to show the person danger and threat because they can't hide it and they have to be doing their job. Well, you have to portray that scenario appropriately. When it comes to the danger and no showing threat, you're gonna have to make them sort of like make a distraction or convolute, or maybe get someone else involved into it, giving them a decoy while they deal with the threat. If they're not, then they're just doing their job and they're not distracting, then you have to go and tell them how they are going to deal with the threat, and you might want to show a little bit of violence here and there. And I mean violence, I don't mean like goofy, funny Looney Tunes. I mean like full-on like Baki violence. Without the ludicrous Baki logic, when someone's face is like a crater, they still somehow are alive. No. But when it comes to a character that is like having how this person may react when they see this, maybe they're disgusted, maybe they're not, maybe they're a little bit annoyed, or maybe they're like, I knew it, but that's just boring. And then yet the hero have a little bit of an emotional recoil backlash. Maybe it's like a happy emotion, maybe it's a bad emotion. Give the response accordingly to the character they're trying to protect that is giving that response. Have a little bit of conversations and bickering when they're not following the hero's orders because they're in order to protect this person, and the hero always has to do harder work because this person's not listening well. And at the end, you could slowly say they're developing a friendship, or maybe some sort of family relations, or maybe beyond that if they're like somewhere in the same age. Romantic interest. For the romantic one, I can't tell you much because I'm not good at romance writing. I have to find someone else to tell you that. Now for the other one, when it comes to the imprinting of someone or an animal imprints the hero as a parent. 9 times out of 10 a mom. If it's a child, it's 9 times out of 10. Fill this description of parent here, mother or father. Make it in such a way where the hero at first doesn't want to be the parent and doesn't even know maybe they are the parent. And they're annoyed that the kid keeps on coming, say stupid things, annoys the crap out of them, sometimes bugging them too much to maybe teach them one thing. It could be as simple as math to a fighting style or music. And this one person getting tired, and the hero's getting tired of it, and they're just getting bored. And eventually they relent and they teach the person how to do maybe math or music, or it could have been fighting style, or it could be a combination of 3. It doesn't have to be those 3. It could be anything else. And slowly over time, they're teaching them, kind of figures out here and there by word of mouth or either by showing an example. Yeah, they do have a shitty scenario with their parent or parents, and they kind of sympathize with them a little bit. Maybe the hero has a shitty relationship with their family, or maybe not. Maybe they know a relative who has a shitty, or friend, or neighbor, and then, you know, build a connection with that. It doesn't have to be that kind of connection. It could be like, could be sympathetic to the person having a shitty parent, and they wish maybe they could have been a parent instead of them. Maybe they wish they were their parent instead of this person being their parent because they feel pity for them. Maybe they try finding something common in relationship, such as maybe some sort of like sport or activity. It could be as simple as a color, and maybe they find out and they like it and they talk a little bit. They have some interest about it. They kind of figure out a little bit. Maybe they have a little bit of hard relationship with communication because of the age group, and also one's a parent who's been accidentally adopted by somebody. Child who has adopted person as their parent may or may not be understanding how the relationship may have worked at first, or may not be understanding their personal boundaries, or maybe they're pushing it a little too much, or maybe they might be not understanding the rules for this person has established for themselves or their self-integrity, and they don't like it when someone pushes on it. Do that. If it's kind of the same way you could do that with an animal as well, you could switch it into, instead of like figuring out that this animal had been having a shitty parent or maybe shitty lifestyle, maybe the animal doesn't show, and maybe the animal just chooses that one person to be the parent. It does happen in the real world. There are animals who just choose people randomly as their parent, and they can't be reversed unless you could time travel and stop it. That's the only only other way I can figure out. So the animal will adopt your character's story, the hero, and the hero has to learn to protect it and shelter it. And then the hero learns, the animal does some sort of quirky things here and there, and eventually maybe the animal may be picked on by some sort of apex predator or a mid-tier predator. Was a mid-tier predator. It's like crow, coyote, foxes. I would say wolverines do fit as a mid-tier predator. It is technically a mid-tier predator. Just and say that, and the animal may get hurt, or it will be absolutely be murdered and eaten alive. And let's just say the hero comes, scares off the animal, or kills the animal, and says the adopted animal that was going to get killed, and they save it, and you know, scold it a little bit. The animal gets a little depressed, and maybe the hero gives them a little treat here and there, and some game, tries, you know, making them happy a little bit, and maybe the hero makes them joyful again, and slowly over time you can say the animal, as it's growing, usually brings some sort of living creature. It could be a mouse or a bird, or if you want to go weird, you could say in a grizzly bear as the adopted animal who's adopted the hero as their parent, brings them some sort of small hooved animal like a goat or sheep alive, and because they have self-perceived, the parent is not self-sufficient as a person who could feed themselves because they never seen them hunt or maybe forage. It's unusual, the brain capacity does not compute, and they bring them either living or dead creatures, and the hero struggles a little bit with this and does not understand, and sometimes has to scold them, and maybe they understand that's bad, and maybe they do something unusual, like maybe they bring a leaf or some sort of branch, or maybe somehow some weird way they find a shiny rock and they might bring that to the hero, and the hero is interested on the shiny rock, or maybe they're interested in how the leaf looks in the lighting, because sometimes if you look at leaves they do have a nice pretty shine. That's one example. And you could say slowly over time they have matured and becomes more like a relationship. They work with each other, they help each other survive and also to thrive in some capacity to entertain one another in their existence. That's how you could do it. I will talk about other stories and other blueprints and stuff when it comes to other characters. Give me time. But for now, I had to go to the Imperium of Connecticut because my concrete spine just has been waterlogged with all my blood, and I had to get that replaced with a new concrete spine. I don't want to go through the surgery. I did it once. Once was enough. Later. Don't forget to eviscerate the like button. Don't forget to fire the subscribe button on a rocket. Get a cable company for that. Here's my Instagram account. I like the name and keeping it. Here's my Amino. And here's also my Reddit, as well as my ArtStation. Alright, and my Anger too.